Hello everyone and welcome back to Obas Trending Gist. Today we are diving headfirst into an explosive online confrontation that has gripped the nation, sparking a crucial conversation about Nigeria's financial health. So, what we're going to talk about today now, Rufai Oseni and Bayo Onanuga. Bayo said something, or rather Rufai posted something and Bayo responded with something whipping Rufai well. Rufai tried so much to prove a point. In call Rufai an economic illiterate. So let's get into it for you to know how everything went down. So a viral post, a respected journalist and a presidential spokesperson in a no-hold barrier X showdown, that's Twitter. At the heart of it all, Nigeria's staggering public debt, the online platform Go of the Day, that is GST, dropped a bombshell image, reposted by none other than Rufai Oseni, boldly proclaiming Tinubu is the mastermind behind Nigeria's debt crisis. The image didn't mince words, that's what they posted. They stated Nigeria's public debt had soared past 152 trillion naira, an increase of 3 trillion naira in just 3 months, accusing Tinubu's government of borrowing without breaks, and warning that the future is paying the price. This quickly ignited a firestorm, pulling in President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, for a dramatic verbal sparring match. Now, things got heated fast. Bayo Onanuga, not one to shy away, fired back at Rufai with a tweet that immediately went viral. He called Rufai an economic illiterate and asserted all sovereign nations borrow money. Our borrowing has not breached the limit allowed by the rule. That was his words. Strong words at that for calling Rufai an economic illiterate. Let me take it again so that you will understand it well. All sovereign nations borrow money. Our borrowing has not breached the limits allowed by the rule. Wow, strong words. So let's go ahead. But Rufai Oseni, as many of you know, is not easily swayed. You know, when they argue points, he must prove his point with his empirical facts. So he brought out many empirical facts just to back this up. And for the fact, say, Bayo no dey respond, Bayo just drop this bomb, go back, Rufai come this scatter, they tear, let's go ahead. This accusation clearly stung because he launched a series of replies, almost a trilogy of tweets addressing Mr. Onanuga directly. In his first comeback, Rufai said, and I quote, "Dear Embo Bayo, you don't need to abuse me and call me economic illiterate because I stated Nigeria's debt. Challenge me with facts. I love and respect despite your abuse." So he followed up with another tweet, reiterating, "Dear Ebobayo, you don't need to abuse me. We all respect you as our Baba B. You can make your point without abuses. While call me an economic illiterate because I stated facts, kindly provide a contrary fact that Nigeria is not owing 152 trillion naira." And the final part of Rufai's initial response, dripping with disbelief, was, "I can't believe Bayo Onanuga started insulting me for stating that Nigeria borrowed 152 trillion naira. I am now an economic illiterate because the day I agree with you, you commended me, Baba B." Now, here is where it gets interesting for us. What do you, my listeners, make of this initial exchange? Is Bayo Onanuga's strong response justified given his role, or is Rufai Oseni right to demand for fact over insults, especially when discussing such a critical national issue like debt? Rufai, clearly pained and ignored by any further response from Mr. Onanuga, then pivoted into a full-blown economic analysis, almost like he was on a mission to prove Bayo wrong. He dropped another tweet citing figures. He said, while total public debt rose to 149.39 trillion naira, up to 22.8% year-on-year from 121.67 trillion naira in Q1, that is first quarter of 2024. Nigeria is just 0.6% away from 40% debt threshold, and Mr. Onanuga starts to call me an economic illiterate, arguing that Nigeria hasn't reached its debt threshold. He went further, asking Onanuga to clarify. He said, tell Mr. Onanuga that before rebasing, Nigeria's debt to GDP was 52%. After rebasing, it moved to 39.4%, which is 0.6% away from reaching the 40% debt to GDP threshold. Ask him, are we not doing badly with debt? And he concluded his part of his argument by stating the government's own benchmark. He said federal government self-imposed limit 40% of GDP for total public debt. This is a prudent ceiling adopted in Nigeria's medium-term debt management strategy to ensure borrowing supports growth without crowding our private investments. The current 39.4% ratio is just below this, providing a narrow buffer for new loans, e.g., the government's recent request for $2.3 billion in external borrowing for 2025. End of quote. So, for those of you following along, how do these numbers make you feel? A 0.6% buffer from a self-imposed limit for future borrowing, is that a comfortable margin or a red flag? Alright, let's get into my critical take on this whole saga. First, the optics of a presidential aide publicly insulting a journalist as an economic illiterate for presenting figures, even if those figures are debatable, are far from ideal. It sets a concerning precedent and tends to shut down rather than encouraging vital public discourse. Leaders, especially those in government, should be champions of facts-based debate, not personal attacks. Rufai Oseni's frustration is palpable. He's challenging the government with its own stated figure, the 152 trillion naira public debt, which he further broke down to 149.32 trillion naira in first quarter of 2024. More importantly, he highlighted the country's debt to GDP ratio standing at 39.4% after rebasing, which, as he correctly points out, is a mere 0.6 share of federal government's own self-imposed limit of 40%. Mr. Onanuga's initial defense that our borrowing has not breached the limits allowed by the rule needs to be interrogated in light of Rufai's detailed analysis. If the limit of 40% and we are at 39.4%, that is cutting it extremely close. It raises serious questions about fiscal prudence and the sustainability of current borrowing trends, especially when government is already requesting more external loans. This isn't just about Rufai proving a point, it's about transparency, accountability, and the economic future of Nigeria. When debt accumulates this rapidly and the buffer against self-imposed limit is so thin, it's a legitimate concern that needs a comprehensive and respectful explanation, not an insult. Are we truly not doing badly with debt when we are inches away from our own ceiling and still borrowing more? This debt shouldn't be about who is smarter. It should be about presenting clear, verifiable facts to the Nigerian people. So there you have it, a heated exchange that goes beyond personality to touch the very core of Nigeria's economic stability. The question remains, is Nigeria's debt truly under control, or are we hurtling towards a crisis, as Rufai Oseni and the gods of the day, that's GST post, suggested? And perhaps more importantly, how should our leaders engage with critical voices on matters of national importance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think make a stronger case here? Was Bayo Onanuga's response justified, or should he have engaged with facts as Rufai demanded? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Obas Trending Gist for more in-depth analysis, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and let's keep the conversation going.